Everyone, it's such a pleasure to be here today at this ADIS conference. Now, as you might notice, I have thrown up some captioning. I have a strong New Zealand accent, for those who can't tell exactly where I'm from, New Zealand, not Australia. And that means the captioning, because it's auto captioning, is going to be a little bit on the random side. Anyway, let me start. Hi, I'm Dr. J. I use they as a pronoun, and I'm going to talk you through Inclusive Teams Deliver. So, for much of the last 20 years, I've done what we've all done. Walked into a room and met a new team. I know we can all tell quicker than we let on if that team is going to make the project work, or if we're going to have to put some work in to make the team work. How do we tell? What is it that we're sensing? And I want to share with you the key thing that I have discovered. Inclusive teams deliver. Now, I can't quite believe that I made the key phrase of this talk, because with my stutter, a hard consonant like a D is always a little bit of a minefield. So bear with me as I kind of stammer my way through some of this. What do I mean by inclusive teams deliver? So spot the business analyst, as I'm going to break down a sentence of 3 words to try and establish exactly what each word means. And to break further with any working model, I'm going to leave inclusive to the end. So to start with defining the words, what is a team? A team is literally just a group of people. They don't need to have a vision, they don't need a set role, and don't need defined numbers. It's a group of people who are working together. And what do I mean by deliver? By deliver, I mean making something happen. So we've got a group of people together who are making something happen. That can be a piece of software, that can be an entire festival, that can be rolling out a change in an organization, that can be a conference like today. What do I mean by inclusive? How does that inclusivity show? Inclusive to me means that all voices are able to be contributing and all voices are valued. There are no voices that are privileged over others. There are no voices who are negated. It's all voices given the space to contribute and always valued. So how do you spot an inclusive team? What are we spotting and sensing? How can I describe that moment of just knowing in a way that you can all understand? Now, this is something I've realized over the years I can do just walking into the floor with a client, walking into a room, or even now joining a Zoom room. I can really quickly spot when a team is being inclusive and showing the right behaviors. For example, people are able to talk without fear. People can speak up, they can express their lived experience, they can talk about why this matters to them, they can talk with passion. They can be vulnerable and express parts of their lives without fear of this being used against them. For many of us, there is fear around revealing your sexuality, your gender identity, your relationship status, whether or not you've got a child. Anything like that can have consequences for your future. In the best teams, people are just able to talk and give their thoughts without being scared of what might happen. So imagine setting yourself apart from your current team. By telling a tale rarely told in a middle-class environment like a technology company, such as being unemployed for over 4 months and having to wait until midnight to run a bath and the washing machine because that is when the off-peak energy tariff starts and you couldn't afford to top up the meter key that week. The group as a whole listen before talking. So it's prioritizing listening and understanding, and it's how people are listening. It's the mindset you're listening with. Are you listening for a gap so you can say what's been building in your head? Or are you listening, forming a question to empathize with the other person and to really understand what is going on in their life? Imagine your team listening. When you tell the story about keyed meters and asking to understand why tariffs matter so much, and acknowledging that fuel poverty and food poverty are so interlinked that someday someone in that situation can't cook if they run the washing machine. Understanding is one of the key things with consensus decision making, And you see this on the best teams, where everyone puts their voice in. Now, a joke about ThoughtWorks. How many opinions are there? Take the number of thought workers and add at least one. So if there's 5 thought workers, there's probably going to be somewhere between 6 and 7 opinions. But this is the core of our consensus decision making. Everyone gives their opinion and their idea of how we should progress. It is discussed, and the entire group, as a group, agree on the best way forward. Making decisions by consensus, I believe, is really vital to spotting an inclusive team. You could have an inclusive team without this, but it is much harder and less likely. It's about ensuring an equitable chance for all people to contribute. This notion of equity, about recognizing that there are some people, because of historical discrimination and the society that we live in, who will have had fewer chances to contribute. There are less chances they will be in the room. There are less chances that in the room there are voices from people of color, people who are migrants, people who've worked non-traditional jobs, or are from or in non-traditional family structures. It's ensuring that they have an equitable chance to contribute to the discussion that is going on. If everyone in the conversation has always had a steady job and income, are they going to be talking about the impact on day-to-day living from financial insecurity? And it's about having that care and safety in conversations. If somebody is telling you something, if somebody is revealing something openly, the group needs to hold that and to look after that. And it's about having that mindset of caring about each other. You can spot it in the tone of conversation on the team. Is the banter biting and about putting somebody down, including the speaker, and all the jokes and messages sent around? Or is the banter about building up and caring on the team? Do people focus on praise and support? On the best teams like Queer House Party, they are always about reassuring and sharing care with everyone on the team, which makes an environment where it's safe to be vulnerable and say, I need extra help. I'm anxious today and I'm dyslexic, so I'm struggling to read messages. Can people voice note instead? Because you know the team will support you, make adjustments and build you up. Looking for these 5 signals means that I can talk with the team and tell very quickly if they are an inclusive team who will deliver. We've all been able to sense this, but it's hard to explain. It's always those conversations around, this is a great team, or we need to work on this team. Often we've not been quite able to explain the tangible or intangible things that we are seeing or that is missing. Are these ideas about an inclusive team earth-shattering and new? Well, I wish it were, because I'd be like, writing a book, doing a talk and being minted. But no, it's not. It's been around for more than 30 years in technology. From the proto-Agile and the very early days of Agile, these notions of team have been around, and the ideas have never been in the limelight. Because inclusion is a mindset. It is about how we think about things. It's about the way we go into those actions. Because we know when you have the right mindset, you do the actions in the correct way and you get the right results. We know that we don't do the right actions right if we don't have the right mindset. I mean, how many of us have stood in a team update or stand-up meeting where people are disconnected until it's their chance to talk? They've given their update and you can see them just switch off again. They're not listening to everyone else's update. They're there solely waiting for their chance to talk, giving their update and mentally going away. These actions show their mindset is not about the team sharing. The right actions in these meetings are about catching up on what's going on across the team, ensuring that if somebody's getting stuck, someone else is there saying, actually, let me come and work with you on that. Or that looks like a blocker. Or let's mob on it because it seems more complex than we thought. These are the conversations we should be having at those meetings, not waiting for a chance to talk, saying our piece and mentally walking away. So inclusion is about having that right mindset. To get the mindset right, we want to use language that most everyone is familiar with. So what I will present is what we've called a manifesto for inclusion, based on the Agile Manifesto language and structure. So I'm hoping that it should sound familiar. There are 4 key points. We are uncovering better ways of building a diverse and inclusive technology industry by doing it and helping others do it. Through this, we have come to value a focus on issues over a focus on identity. There are multiple things that happen when you focus on identity. For me, as a disabled, non-binary queer migrant with mental health issues, I can end up with companies saying, well, you can belong to the disabled group or the LGBT group. In many companies, these groups are always around the protected identities, and it is problematic for somebody to belong to multiple groups, even though the core issues may overlap. It's about focusing on those core issues that are common across identities. Those issues about representation, about being seen, about being included, about having a voice valued, which affects so many people over those issues, which focus on an identity. This is not to say that identity isn't important, and it's important to ensure that we are representative. It is focusing on the issues that come out of those conversations over focusing on identity politics. We value guidelines and flexibility over policy and process. I can give an example on this one. ThoughtWorks created a process that said you can't have any aliases on your email address. We'll set you up with an email address that's in a specific format, and that's it across the company. And then I came along, because my first name is literally one letter, the letter J. So people would put in my first name and search wouldn't work, because for those who don't know, search requires 2 letters to work. And then they'd try to put in a space, and the search wouldn't have me at the top of the list. When I told ThoughtWorks operations about this problem, all they had to do was go and put in Dr. J and Dr. J Harrison on the systems so that everyone could find me. But those are email aliases for me. Inclusion is about having those flexibility and those guidelines to be able to sort things out. It is also about how you label things. Like in the lockdown months, how do you talk about any extra leave? Is the leave about being a parent, or is it about caring for somebody? It is about being able to take that extra leave when you need it. If you're looking after an elderly parent, if you're looking after a peer or a partner who's suddenly unwell, or trying to look after a child, it's the same. You've got caring responsibilities on top of your day job. We value two-way communication over education. And I know this is a difficult one. For example, if I say something and somebody's like, that's not quite right, it's about having that two-way communication to understand and empathize why I might have said something, over one-way education that pushes your opinion onto others without inviting a response. This mindset stops us saying you're wrong and putting somebody on the defensive and pushing them being other. This allows us to try and understand where somebody has come from. They can say anything from, I'd only heard that used a couple of times before, and I didn't realize it was a pejorative term, to I didn't know there was another way of seeing that term. I'm using this as an example because this happened to me in an activist space. I used the word chav, and rather than just tell me I was wrong, people tried to understand why I might have used it and help me to get to grips with its history. It is not a good word for working class people, and how the term has been used in the media to other an entire group of people. Value making an inclusive space over reporting numbers. Now, most of us like numbers, and we like to say we've got X number of trans people in our groups and things like that. If you're not making an inclusive space where people feel okay to give their pronouns, where people feel okay to use just whichever bathroom is going to suit how they're feeling today, then that is a very different feeling over reporting your numbers. It's about people feeling that inclusivity. For me, it's about how people react when I give my name or my pronoun. Is it a discussion on how a name can't be a single letter? And when I say I changed it, the next question is, what was your old name? Or is the next statement something like, wow, that's a cool name. Let me see if I can get the system to take that. Oh, it needs 2 letters. What do you suggest? One place feels more inclusive, and sometimes the feeling is even more subtle. So this is not a binary. There's value in items on the right, and we value the items on the left more. There is value in all of the items, and we value the first items more. So bringing it all back together so that makes it a little bit easier to read. We are uncovering better ways of building this diverse and inclusive technology industry by doing it and helping others do it. Through this, we've come to value a focus on issues over a focus on identity, guidelines and flexibility over policy and process, two-way communication over one-way education, making an inclusive space over reporting numbers. And again, it is not a binary. There's value in items on the right, and we value the items on the left more. There is value in all the items, and we value the highlighted items more. So that's what I mean by the mindset of inclusive teams deliver. Now, when I say manifesto, it conjures up the idea of a massive shift. I'm presenting as something that is more an incremental change. Each small change in mindset makes a difference. Changing mindsets has been my thing since 2007. This here is my motto, my driving force. If we are not visible, we cannot demand the world make space for us. Now, despite me saying that, I'm not a demanding person. What I'd like to do is to challenge you. I'd like to challenge you to go and look at this way of changing mindsets and think about how that might change the teams you work in. And by changing the teams we work in, how that's going to change the companies we work in. And how by changing the companies we work in, we'll slowly change the entirety of the industry we work in. Because why not go for trying to change the world? Because inclusive teams deliver. Now, I'm going to leave the manifesto up and try to jump back here and see people. If there's any questions in the chat or anything like that, please. Oh, okay, I've got compliments, which is fantastic. If anyone wants to ask any questions, just feel free. I'm more than happy. We've still got about 7 to 10 minutes. I'm more than happy to riff on anything you want, to offer suggestions on how this runs into a team, anything like that. I've been doing this talk for a bit,